What's up, guys? The world is definitely changing very quickly. I think it's just absolutely exciting times. I'm personally really optimistic about the future. I know there's a lot of negative stuff going on, but at the same time, there's so much stuff that is changing for the better. And it's really up to us what we want to focus on and what we want to put our energy into. So for me, it's a really important time to find what you love and find what you think offers a hope at a better future, and then really pour your energy into that. And that is really why I spend so much time talking about Bitcoin. I just really believe that it's kind of the foundation of a better future. And I really don't think that we have much chance at a better future without first embracing Bitcoin. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But if you study money, you can see that they use money to enslave us and to keep us poor, and it's kind of it's like having a hole in your pocket or your wallet. So you can just keep working for this money and trying to get ahead, but it's always being devalued or debased through the constant increase in the money supply. And so if you spend any time kind of researching money systems and how they work, you'll discover that that's actually the case. So if we can't really get ahead, if our money is always being devalued, and that's at the foundation of our trade and our free market uh, society, then we really don't have a free society. We don't have a way to create prosperity and to be able to trade amongst ourselves freely and honestly. And so it's not a level playing field at the moment, where the governments essentially have the ability to print this money out of thin air and buy the assets that you and I have to spend our entire life working for and giving our labor and our time and our energy, our innovation, our thoughts, everything to trying to acquire this money, yet they just come in and print it. And the other thing about this whole system is that they force us to use their money. So the US, what they've been doing is they're forcing other countries to use these US dollars as their medium of exchange. And if any of these countries kind of refused it or tried to exchange their goods in other currencies, or let's say for something like gold, then they were targeted by the US military and they were attacked. And of course, they say it's for other reasons. They say they're terrorists or whatever. But really, what it is it's coercion, and they're forcing people to use these dollars, because if people stop using the dollars, then they no longer have that advantage of being able to just create the currency or counterfeit the currency out of thin air and buying up limited resources like oil or gold or other scarce minerals or resources. So if we level the playing field and everyone has to actually contribute something that other people find of value in order to receive the underlying currency or medium of exchange that we're using, it really levels the playing field, because no longer is there a central authority or central entity that can just come in and counterfeit the money and buy whatever they want with it. So it really levels the playing field when you have something like Bitcoin, where there's no way to counterfeit the money. You actually have to enter a true free market and put in your offer, and there has to be somebody willing to accept your offer or trade you that good or service or that currency or whatever you might be trying to exchange for the Bitcoin. And there's no way to come in and fake it and just counterfeit the money. So that really changes the game, and it really makes for an honest hard money where it won't ever be debased. It can't be, its underlying purchasing power cannot be debased by a centralized authority. And that is great news for all of us. It means that if we choose to hold our savings in that currency, that essentially it most likely, if this all works out, it's going to hold or increase our purchasing power as we move forward in time. And that's a very beautiful thing, because historically what's been happening is quite the opposite, where we have currency debasement, and it's always taking more and more of that currency to buy assets like the stock market or homes, real estate, whatever you might want. So when you're always going backwards and you're trying to save money to acquire assets that you need or you want to invest in, but they're always continually increasing in price, it's really hard to get ahead. And it just hasn't been a level playing field where these governments, like like I said, can just counterfeit the money. So Bitcoin changes that. And Bitcoin also isn't using force to increase its adoption. There's no centralized military where they're saying use Bitcoin or we're going to attack your country or we're going to shoot you or we're going to throw you in jail and you know agree to this extortion or we're going to throw you in a little cell and lock you up until you follow our rules and do everything we say. So Bitcoin really is increasing its adoption just through its monetary policy, which is hard coded in the Bitcoin protocol. So there's no way for that to be altered. It's not controlled by a central authority that can just decide to make drastic changes to that protocol or to that monetary policy, which in turn would drastically affect the value of that currency. So having this out of control from a centralized authority is really a great thing. And I think it's the way forward where we can stop relying on centralized bodies to kind of make the proper decisions for us. We're kind of putting so much faith in these central banking cartel and the governments and all that. And we're saying, we sure hope you know what's best for all of us because, you're telling us what to do. You're telling us to use the money. You're the ones making the monetary policy and all that. And we really don't have a choice. And we're really putting a lot of faith and trust in these governments that they do have our best interests at heart when they actually don't. Looking back through history, that's quite evident. So if you look at something like Bitcoin, where it's actually more of a voluntary thing, where people they're not forced to use it, it's just they're attracted to it because of its inherent uh, policies or its protocol. And so that is kind of the way forward, in my opinion, where technology is offering us something. It's not forcing something on us. And I think that's the big difference here. And that's even where it comes down to this mask debate. It's not that I necessarily don't think that wearing a mask is always a bad idea. It's just that I don't believe that it should be forced upon us by all these technocrats who claim to know what's best for us. And they're often pushing whatever narrative they want. They can fund whatever scientific studies that they want to fit the narrative and kind of show us the science um, that really validates whatever claim they're making, while at the same time they're burying kind of opposing science that shows quite the opposite. So this is an issue, and it's really just this whole issue of technocrats and interventionism, where they feel they know what's best. They can always come in and intervene in markets, and they can decide which industries to subsidize. So they're bailing out the banks, they're bailing out the airlines, they're bailing out specific companies, but it's all up to them. They're not allowing the free market to decide. In a true free market capitalist system, the market decides, and a lot of these companies would already be bankrupt. But what's happening is these centralized authorities are kind of playing the hand of God, per se, and saying, oh, we can't allow these businesses to go under. We can't allow the banking cartel to go under. And the main reason is because the banking cartel create the money, and then they pay off these politicians who are so easily corrupted because they're inherently flawed and greedy. So it's really no surprise that the governments really bow down to these central banks and that kind of thing. So you can really see where the true power is. It's not really in government. The whole voting democracy thing is a big illusion. They're all at the highest level controlled by much more powerful forces than what we believe. It's not like you vote in this politician and they have absolute say. They're really just the kind of the face of the whole organization, and then they have to answer to, of course, the big corporations and the big money and the banks and all that, which are obviously much more powerful than the government. So really, voting is an illusion. You're not voting. Whatever these politicians promise, you're never getting it, and that's not going to change until we actually take the money out of politics, and the politicians don't owe favors to all these big corporations and all of that. And we don't have phony money where they just print it and they get to decide who they give it to and all of this. So really, Bitcoin changes the game. It creates a much more level playing field where even the small guy has an opportunity to get some skin in the game and to be a part of this, because by owning some Bitcoin, you actually own a small percentage, depending on how much Bitcoin you own, but you actually own a part of the network. So it's not just people think of it as a money or whatever. It's much more than that. It's actually a network, and it's changing the way in which money actually exists and is used. It's more, it could be seen as a money. It could also be seen as a savings technology. And by owning some of it, you actually own a part of this network. And if kind of look at the internet. So in the beginning, a lot of people said, this will never fly. Why would I have an internet company? No one's going to use the internet. And so many people were skeptic of it. And fair enough. But I think this is the same thing that's happening in Bitcoin, where in the beginning we have many skeptics who just kind of write it off and they say there's no way this will ever happen. But then we have a lot of people at the foundation of its development and innovation that truly believe in this technology, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. And it's having this effect where just more and more people are waking up to what it is and its benefits, and its value's only been increasing over the long term. I mean, of course, we've had some downturns in the market where it kind of crashes and then goes sideways for a couple of years. But overall, if you look at it since its creation, it's the best performing asset out of all of them. So this will only continue for some time as we realize the true value of Bitcoin during its price discovery time here. And this is kind of this is a once in a lifetime opportunity where kind of the average Joe gets to front run the major big players, the big hedge funds, the big banks, and even the governments. They're so slow and sluggish to adopt new technology, and they're so attached to clinging on to the advantage that they have, which is being able to counterfeit the money. They're so attached to this control and this authority that it's going to take them a long time to admit that they were wrong, or to start hedging their bet, or to kind of warm up to this whole decentralized revolution that's taking place. So it's kind of it's a once in a lifetime opportunity that your average Joe gets an opportunity to front run countries and big corporations and stuff like that. And so we've just been seeing the start of a lot of these big corporations, big companies, and hedge funds, and even countries now that are starting to adopt Bitcoin. And I've been talking about this for some time. And finally people are starting to listen. So I think it's pretty interesting. And now we are seeing the big players come over, which is what I suspected would happen. So the last kind of 6 months has been very interesting, because we are starting to see that, where the big players are coming over now, and everyone's kind of recognizing what Bitcoin really is, and they're being forced to look a little deeper, because essentially it's the best performing asset, and these people have a responsibility to their clients and their shareholders to really make the best call and to become informed on this. So a lot of people that kind of brushed it off in the beginning as a Ponzi scheme or whatever they might have thought of it, they're now being forced to look a little deeper and to really take a deep dive into it. And now you're seeing kind of the results of these people diving a little deeper. You're seeing the Michael Saylors of the world that have essentially taken the time to look deeper, and then they came to the conclusion that yes, this is the asset that they want to invest in. So we have a publicly traded company like Microstrategy that decided to go in with 100% of their cash reserves, and they chose Bitcoin over any other asset, over commercial real estate, over stocks, over gold, silver, all of that. They went 100% into Bitcoin. And Michael Saylor, of course, is a bit of an exception because he is very tech savvy. And if you look at kind of his history, he's been very, very successful. And a lot of that reason is because he understands technology and he has the foresight to see where these technological advances lead. And so of course, you're going to have people like him that have a little more ability to be able to have that kind of foresight and to really see how the technology will change the game. And you're seeing that these types of people that have this ability, this foresight, you can see the conclusion they're coming to. So then it puts pressure on other companies and hedge funds and whatnot to really consider things when we're having more and more renowned investors really take a deeper look and start to change their tune on Bitcoin and say, actually, I overlooked something, I was wrong. So they have to kind of swallow their pride and then really take another look at it. And then they're coming to the conclusion that, no, actually, this is a great investment. So pretty exciting times. And that's, I've been really doing my best to educate people on this for quite some time. It's pretty exciting. I just had all three of my parents, both stepdads and my mom, all come to me this in the last 2 months, and they've finally, after years of me ranting and raving about Bitcoin, they've finally come to me and said they want to buy Bitcoin. So we really are seeing the tune of a lot of people change, and I think that will only continue as people see prices continue to rise and they see their savings just lose its purchasing power, and they're really looking ahead, and they're being forced to look at ways to really secure their own prosperity moving into the future. A lot of these people that are entering retirement, they don't want to see their purchasing power of their assets just completely get eaten away by this money printing. And they don't want to be pushed into poverty and forced to lower their standard of living. So they're really being forced to look at alternatives and really to hedge their bets. Of course, there's no guarantees, but I do think it's a good time to be diversified, and I think everyone should have some exposure to Bitcoin, and it's just a matter of your risk tolerance, I suppose, and whatnot. But I am a believer that being all in cash or all in real estate is probably one of the riskiest plays. Well, I wouldn't say real estate's the riskiest play, but cash is definitely a risky play because we are, we're seeing the end of a fiat regime where I think technology has really changed the game, and we're seeing kind of the results of having unbacked currency. Of course, the US dollar is an experiment itself. It's only been around for 49 years. Bitcoin's been around for 11 years. So really, it's not that much further ahead. And everyone's always focused on how Bitcoin is so new and such an experiment. Well, so is completely fiat currency, where there's no backing or limit to how much they can print. So everything's really an experiment, and time will only tell who was on the right side of this trade. And I'm just so glad that more and more people are opening their eyes to Bitcoin. And I've had a lot of thank you messages lately, people that have got in the last few years, just from listening to what I had to say and encouraging them to dig a little deeper. So that feels good. It feels like all of this work I've been doing and all this time I've taken to really try and help people out, to encourage them to learn a little more about this technology. It seems like it's actually paying off for some people, and that makes it all worth it to me. I just, I really do feel for people, and I just want people to, I want the very best for people. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, like the video, share it with some friends and family, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.